We are on Samach Dalet Amid Base, in towards the just past the middle of the page. Kollel pay nachas a. The Mishnah says a woman may wear a kavul, which is basically a sort of a woven cap that she would wear right above her hair, and then her bonnet or her head covering would go over that, and she would wear that, and as long as whatever adornments, jewelry she has for her head are attached to that, that would be fine. And pay nachras and basically fake hair, whether it's someone else's hair or own hair, whether it's a toupee or extensions or a shaitel, all would be she can wear into the public domain, into her courtyard, but not to the public domain proper. Rav says in general, if you're not allowed to wear it to the public domain, you're not allowed to wear it even into your courtyard. And as we've seen, the courtyard is really a reshus hayachid. However, since there are multiple families and multiple houses that it services, so therefore it would be prohibited to carry from the private domain into there, or vice versa. But a kaval pei nachris, you are allowed to wear this cap with the jewelry attached to it and the wig. It can be worn into the courtyard, which is a joint space, even if it doesn't have an eruv, which it requires, but you can't go into a proper public domain with it. Rabbi Anani, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yesi, Rabbi Anani, he said in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, Hakol kikavel. Now everything is like the kavel, and you're allowed to wear, you take all of it into the courtyard, but not into the public domain. And the Gemara is going to explain soon a basis for this machlokes. Nan, bekavel or paying nachas a. So we have a brisa. In our Mishnah it says that you can only go in the kavel and in the paying nachas to the courtyard, meaning all the rest of the things we said she's not allowed to wear, even in the courtyard, you're not allowed to wear it. Since you're not allowed to wear it in Rishus Harabim, in the public domain, you can't wear it you can't wear it in the courtyard either. So Bishlam Rav, so Rav is great because Rav made that distinction and said these two you're allowed to wear into the chutzner and nothing else. Nicha El Rabbanani Barsasan, but according to Rabbanani Barsasan, who said in the name of Yishmael that everything else as well can be worn into the courtyard, so we have a contradiction, Kasha. So Rabbanani Barsasan Mishmei the man Kamarli. He wasn't saying it on his own. He was saying it in the name of Rabbi Shmuel. Mishmei the Shmuel bar Rabbi Yesi. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yesi Tanahu Upalik. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yesi is considered a Tana, and therefore he can disagree, even though he was on the cusp of the end of the Tanaic era and the beginning of the Amaraic era. Like Rav, Rav can argue with Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yesi because he's a Tana, at times considered a Tana, and so is Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yesi considered a Tana. And so even though our Mishnah says that only kavel and peyanachos, only this cap and the wig may be worn into the courtyard, but the rest would have to be worn only in the house. Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yesi could disagree, and he could say it all can be worn in the courtyard, and even though it can't be worn in a public domain. Barav Mashnahani. So what distinction does Rav make? Why these two may be worn in a courtyard, whereas the rest of them may not be worn in a courtyard? Amar Ula Kadesh Tizgana al Bala. So Ula says the reason is because these are a part of a basic adornment that a woman needs to have in order to look nice and neat for her husband, and that there not be a lack of discord, a lack of harmony in the house on account of she doesn't feel beautiful, he doesn't look at her as beautiful. Tanya, as we learned, the Torah says in regards to Nida, in her ailment she is separated. So Zakenim or Rishonim Amru Shaloi Tikcho Tipkos V'Lo Tiskashet B'Big Dei Tzavonim. So earlier Chachamim said, perhaps what this means is that she shouldn't adorn herself with makeup and jewelry while she's in Nida in front of her husband. Until Rabbi Akiva came and he said, no, Imkain, if you do so, at the Megana al Bala, she's going to feel not respected or not beautiful in front of her husband. And then her husband's going to divorce her on account of that. It's going to create a lack of harmony. Rather, what is the simple meaning of Adava Benidasa? She is in her ailment. She is separated. What separation? We're talking about Benidasa. That she remains in a state of nida. That this tells us that she remains in nida until she goes to the mikvah, even after the period has ended, and even after there's no flow. Nevertheless, she remains in her separation until she goes to the mikvah. But of course, there's a concern of her beauty and her feeling positive, and him looking at her positive, and as such, she puts on makeup. And so too on Shabbos, when the Chachamim put up a fence and said you can't wear certain things because you may carry them in the public domain. Basic beauty, they said she can wear in the courtyard. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rab. So Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rab, and this is going to be the basis of the previous machlokas. Any time that the Torah said, that the Chachamim said you're not allowed to do something because it looks like you're doing something prohibited, you can't do it even in an inner chamber, inside an inner chamber. Chadri Chadarim, it doesn't make a difference, you can't do it. Maras Ayin. So the cases that we saw before, a man can't go out in uniform, can't go out with a helmet, with the shield, with a spear, with a sword on his side, etc., because it looks like he's going to war, or some of it because he's carrying any of the things we said you can't go out because it looks like you're going to the marketplace, it looks like you're going to sell, it looks like you're going to battle, and all of those things. It's not only in the public domain you can't wear it, you can't even wear it inside the house. Tanam v'lo bezug. We learned you can't wear a bell, afal pisha pakuk, even though the bell is stuffed up, so it's not going to make a sound, but it looks like you're going to the marketplace, and therefore you cannot take this animal out into public domain with the bell, but even in your private domain, you can't. But we have a brisa that says that you may take this animal into your courtyard if it's a clogged bell. So what's the distinction? Tanoi, so this is a machlokas Tanoi. The Tanya, and here we turn to Samachei Amar Aleph. The Tanya, we learn Shotchim B'chama. Somebody was walking in the rain on Shabbos, and his clothing got soaked. Comes home, he changes out of it into fresh clothing, and now he has these soaking garments. So he wants to hang them. If he hangs it on a clothesline outside, in front of where he normally hangs his laundry and his neighbors could see, they're going to say, well, look at him, he was doing laundry on Shabbos. So you can't do that. But you can hang it in the sun where people cannot see. Rabbi Eliezer or Rabbi Shimon Osim. How Rabbi Eliezer or Rabbi Shimon say it doesn't make a difference if people can see or not. Even B'chadri Chadarim, you can't do it. So here we have the Machlokas Tanaim of whether something that is prohibited, not in and of itself, but rather because it looks like you're doing a Dvar Isser, that's the typical thing that would be going on, is Usser not only in front of everyone, or even in private, even in a chamber within a chamber. Chadri Chadarim would be Usser. That's what Rabbi Eliezer Shimon say. And Rav follows that, and therefore Rav says you cannot wear these things in the courtyard. Whereas Rabbi Yossi says, like the Tanakama, you're allowed to put them out in the public, allowed to hang them in the sun, as long as you don't do it in the public view. So to over here, you can wear these in the courtyard, you just can't wear them in the public domain. The Mishnah said somebody should not walk out with a cotton in his ear because it may fall out again and he's going to carry it. So she may walk out as long as it is tied to the ear. And this doesn't mean, as we may think, just that it's put in tight in the ear and so you're not concerned of falling out. As the Shulchan Aruch says, it needs both. It needs to be tight in the ear and also have some sort of band around the ear to tie it so that it won't fall off. And in with some cloth or something for comfort in the shoe. Here it doesn't have to fit tightly. As long as it is tied to the shoe, you can walk out, and we're not concerned that it's going to fall out and you're going to carry it. So this is more like a insole inside your shoe for comfort. And this is sort of like a crude tampon. So Sabar Rami Bar Chama perhaps there too it needs to be tied because otherwise if it falls out she'll carry it. Amar Rav, no, here we're not concerned that she's going to carry it. Even if it is not tied and kosher law. Why? Keeping the mice, because since it has blood on it, it's going to be disgusting. She's not going to carry it if it falls out. If it's not tied, even if it's not tied to her, she can walk out with it. We're not concerned she's going to carry it in a public domain. What happens if it has a handle and she can hold the handle? So therefore, maybe she's going to carry it in a public domain because it has something to hold on to. It says it's still permissible and it does not need to be tied because again, even that will not be carried in a public domain. Even if she made a handle, it's going to be permissible. Rabbi Yochanan went with a cotton in his ear to the Beis Medrash. And his friends disagreed with him. Now, it doesn't tell us what part was it. Was it not tight in the ear, or was it not tied to the ear? We'll see. Rabbi Yanai, he went out into a not a full public domain, but a rabbinic level, a Rabbanan public domain. Everyone disagreed with him. But Rabbi Cheskel said it has to be tied and tied to the ear. But once it's tied, you can even go to a public domain. So why did he say that he went to his Rabbi Yochanan went to his Beis Medrash, and it doesn't say he went into a public domain with it? Like Kashi Adam Mehadik, Adolei Mehadik. So here we see this distinction of whether or not it was in tight in the ear. And there, Rabbi Yochanan, since it was tight in his ear, he held that it doesn't require to be tied, and that his chaverim disagreed with, and that's why we said that the Shulchan Aruch says it needs both. Whereas Rabbi Yecheskel went out even though it was loose in the ear and it wasn't tied, and that's why everybody disagreed with that. Rashi has another version as well, but this is I told you the one version in Rashi. Bepilpel ubegilgal melach. The Mishnah said further that she can put in her mouth, and we said prior to Shabbos, and then continue with it in Shabbos, a pepper to mask her bad breath, and a cluster of salt in her for a toothache. By the way, obviously this applies men as well. The reason why our Mishnah says it in regards to jewelry for women is because men typically didn't care if they had bad breath. Women were more self-conscious. As we saw elsewhere, men didn't bathe, men didn't have oral hygiene, so it was not really, I don't know if anybody did, but it was not all that important to men, for men to wear this. In any case, but of course, Allah is the same, that if somebody needs to mask bad breath, then they can have something in their mouth if they put it in before Shabbos. So what is this Gilgal Melech for? So pilpil l'reach hapeh. The pepper is for a bad odor in the mouth. And Gilgal Melech and the salt is l'dorashini. It is for a toothache. B'chein davar shenesenes l'teich piyah. Or anything else she puts into her mouth. What is that? Zangvil inami durtsuna, whether it is ginger or cinnamon. Shein toteves shein sozov Rebbe Mativ v'chacham. So fake tooth, so of gold, Rebbe says it's permissible and the Chacham says prohibited. And we said that maybe somebody's going to mock her and then she's going to take it out because it looks so distinct from the rest of her teeth, as Rashi said previously in the Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Zera. So Rabbi Zera said, "Leishanu elo shalzav." That's only if the fake tooth is gold. Aval shal kesef. But if it's silver, well, silver looks closer to the rest of the teeth, and it's not as distinct, and therefore she's not going to be embarrassed and not going to take it out. And therefore everybody says it's permissible. Again, Rashi has another interpretation from his Rebbe. We're going to go with what Rashi said before. The basic reason is gold looks so distinct from the rest of the teeth, and somebody may mock her, and so she'll take it out. Whereas silver looks closer to fitting with the rest of the teeth, with the ivory, and therefore it's going to be okay. Tani nami hachi. Similarly, we learned Michelle Kesef Divrako Mutter Shel Zav Rabbi Mativ Chacham Meisim. Silver tooth, everybody says it's permissible. Gold is where there's a machlokas between Rebbe and the Chacham. Amar Abaye, Rebbe, Rebbe Lazar, Rebbe Shimon ben Elazar, Kula Spirulahu, the Chalmidi de Meganibe, Lo Yasila Elach. Rebbe and Rebbe Shimon, Rebbe Lazar, and Rebbe Shimon ben Elazar, they are all of the opinion that it's something that you're embarrassed about, you will not take out and show, and therefore you're not going to carry it because you're not going to show it. So Rebbe Hadamar, Rebbe over here with the gold, she's embarrassed about the fake tooth, so she's not going to let everybody see it, and therefore she's not going to come to carry it. And we saw earlier that Rabbi Eliezer says that the perfume cases that she would wear as a pendant, as a way to mask foul odor, body odor, that she would wear these perfume that gave off a nice scent. She can wear them because since it's masking the bad odor, she's not going to take it off to show her friends because it in and of itself is embarrassing that she needed it. And Rabbi Shimon Elazar, where's Rabbi Shimon Elazar? The Tanya we learned, Kollel Rabbi Shimon Elazar, Kol Shu L'mata Min Asvacha Yotzeba, L'mala Min Asvacha Eini Yotzeba. That any head jewelry, head adornment that is above this net over the head, a net cap. So there's a problem that she may take it off and show it. But beneath requires taking that off, so she's going to be embarrassed about it and she won't take it off. So again, we see that this machlekes earlier and here as well, and this idea that the concept that some of these things can't be worn are an account of that maybe you're going to take it off. And any of those within the category of maybe you're going to take it off and show it to people, if it's actually based upon something that you're embarrassed to show or to take off, so then you won't take it off and there's no concern you're allowed to wear it. That's Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. And as we've seen, there were basically three categories. Those that look like I'm doing something wrong, It looks like I'm going to the marketplace. It looks like I'm going to battle, etc. And those were because of Maris Ayin, and we saw machlokas of whether that's allowed in the Chatzar or not. Now here we have some things that maybe you're going to take off to show, and we've seen some of them that are actually just not a garment at all, and they're prohibited really Darabanan or Daraisa sometimes on account of that it's not a garment. So those are the three categories of things you're not allowed to wear because maybe you're going to carry it in public domain, two of which are Darabanan on account of you may carry it or it looks like it's prohibited, and we had exclusions to both of these in the Gemara. Mishnah continues. Yotze b'sela she'alatzinis. You can wear a coin on tzinis, which we'll see is a type of blister or a verruca, a wart on the foot. And putting this coin on helps heal it and brings comfort. And so you can put that on and wear it. Young girls can wear thread through their hair, through their ear, or even a splinter through the ear. And these were put into where the piercing is in order to maintain the hole so that it doesn't close up. Arvios, Yotzes Ru'ulas. And in place like in Arabia, where they wear, women wear a head covering that covers their face as well, and only the eyes are left open. So they can go out like that, Ru'ulas, because that's a normal garment in that place. Madios, Perufas. And in Madai, they can go out perufas, which is basically it's a wraparound, and it has a tie, a button that holds it closed on the side, as we'll see in a moment. And so there also it's considered a garment, and so you can wear it that way. Now the Mishnah continues, and in truth, anybody can do that because you're wearing it. You're wearing a head covering. You're wearing a face covering. So that's a permissible way to go. Ella but the Chachamim talking about what's common in Arabia. That was what's common in Madai. That was common. But if somebody wanted to wear it elsewhere, that wouldn't be a problem of Shabbos because it is a garment. You're wearing it as a clothing. Now, so this, what is this prufus? They would create a button and a buttonhole by putting an item such as a walnut or a coin or a pebble on the one side of their garment, on the inner side of the garment, and stick it out. And then they would take the corner of the other end of the cloth and wrap it around the nut, which would create basically a button and the wrapping around it, because you had the cloth and the pebble or the nut on the one side and the tying around it. But don't do that binding on Shabbos. And the Gemara is going to tell us later that's really talking about the coin. But really there's no problem of making that button and twist around it, because you're not doing anything. So might-tzinis. The Gemara analyzes. The first thing it says that you can wear this coin on the tzinis, on this ailment. So the Gemara says bas ara. It's like a blister that you get from rubbing against the ground. Umayshna sela. So why would you put a coin there? Ilema kol mididakushi. Is it just anything that is hard on it really helps it heal? Malila. So that's good for it. Liavela chaspa. So just put a earthenware, a piece of a shard of clay. Elamashum shufta. So rather, it's because of the Rashi says the wetness that comes out of silver. It's specific to metals because that will release something that helps it heal. So you have a letasa. So just use a piece of a piece of metal? Why a piece of just a plain piece of silver? Why using a coin? Coin has a stamp on it. It has an image on it. Must be from the fact that you specifically taking a coin. Elamishum turta. So rather, it's the image, the impression, the indentations. Liavila pulsa. Well, then it doesn't have to be made out of silver. You can make it out of wood, a wood coin, a wood chip. That would do it. It's the combination of it all. It's something hard that's metal and gives off this moisture and has the indentations in it. And to combine, that creates a good healing for this blister, for this ailment. Abanas Yetzis Bechutin. The girls would go out with threads in their ears to maintain the hole. So Avoid Shmuel Shavik Lulabnate in the Nafka Bechutin. Shmuel's father did not allow Shmuel's sisters, his daughters, Shmuel's father's daughters, to go out with these threads on Shabbos. As we'll see, the Gemara is going to explain. He also didn't let them sleep in the same bed. And he specifically made them a mikvah for the spring months. And he made them mats to go to the mikvah in the fall in Tishrei. The Gemara says, what's going on? He didn't let them go out with these threads. But we learned in our Mishnah they're allowed to. So why did Shmuel's father not allow them to go out with these threads in their ear to maintain the hole? If that's the Mishnah says it's allowed to be done because it's typical for them to go out like this. So since his daughters would go out with they were beautiful threads. They're not just any thread. They were colorful and they were nice. And he was afraid that they would take them out to show their friends, look, I have a beautiful color thread today. Look what I'm wearing. And so they'd end up carrying it in the public domain, so he didn't let them wear it. Also, he didn't allow them to sleep in the same bed. So let's say this supports the opinion of Rav Huna. Rav Huna said, women who are sexual with each other, essentially rubbing against each other sexually. So psulas l'kahuna, they are invalid for kahuna. Rashi says that we learned this past week. A kohen gadol must wear must marry a maiden, a virgin who's never been with a man, but not only a man. This would also invalidate having had a sexual encounter with another woman, would invalidate her to a kohen. Tues says, no, it's not to a kohen, but even not to a kohen gadol, but even to a kohen, any kohen, because we saw in this Torah reading of this Shabbos that that a kohen may not marry a zona, someone who had done harlotry, and this would be included in harlotry because there was a sexual act with another person. In any case, even though that there was no kohen gadol in the time of Shmuel's father, nevertheless, since this would be classified as an act that is considered sexual and therefore harlotry or taking away virginity, and so therefore he didn't let them do this. So Gemara says, no, this doesn't support Rav Huna. Like, it could be he disagrees with Rav Huna and says that this doesn't count as such an act would not count as disqualifying to marry a kohen or a kohen gadol. But nevertheless, lilfan gufa nachra, and the reason is simply because they shouldn't become sexually active and then desire another man. He also made for them a mikvah in Nisan. So for this part, I want to just introduce a little bit about mikvahs. We have the halacha that the Torah says. We read a few weeks ago. We learned this, that the Torah says, "Ach mayon ubor mikveh mayim yihiyator." A mayon, a wellspring, ubor mikveh mayim, or a pit of gathered water, which is rainwater that is gathered. Yihiyator. That is what creates tahara. That is what it counts as a mikveh. The word mikveh is gathered water, but it also says mayon, a wellspring. So a wellspring is flowing water. That's its natural state. And therefore, even while flowing, it creates tahara. So you can have a wellspring that is flowing water. It's not mikveh. It's not a gathered water. And yet it's going to be a valid mikveh. It's not going to actually be a mikveh, it's a misnomer, right? That's going to be a valid form of creating tahara. What we call mikveh is for the gathered water. That's the technical term for the gathered water. But we call it all mikveh. That would be valid as toveling, as a place to go to tovel. So
still with the mayan, I say still with the mayan, you'd have to have a mem saw.
So perhaps there's a machlokas about that. Michael is talking about the measure, how much you need. That's not clear that you would need memsa at all. And in fact, it would, according to some, there is impossibility. It's impossible to have memsa because the concept of flowing water, the issue with flowing water is that since it's flowing, perhaps each molecule is its own. It doesn't really count as a combined water.
So you couldn't dam it up?
Well, once you dam it, then it's no longer a mayan, right? Well, it's mayan water, but it's not a flowing water anymore. Yes, but the concept is when it's flowing and it's kosher. When it's flowing and it's kosher, it could be it's kosher even though it doesn't have 40 saw. Perhaps it still does need 40 saw. Either way, we'll see that there's that's a machlokas. I don't want to get into the measure right now of mayan, which is a very complicated issue in and of itself. Of do we say katafras chibur? Do we say that when something is flowing downstream, that it's connected to the waters before it and after it?
Can I ask, would any river or canal work for tahara then?
Okay, we'll get to river in a moment.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So we have the flowing water of a stream, of a wellspring, which, as Michael pointed out, may or may not need 40 seah, which is the minimum amount. A mikvah for sure needs 40 seah. Now, to Bensie's question, what happens when you have a wellspring, which you know is a wellspring, but the problem is it's been raining so hard that it's overflowing, like we now know in Eretz Yisrael. You have some well-known spring water streams, but it's been raining so much, and Baruch Hashem, the Kinneret's overflowing, and some of the streams are overflowing, but you know it's from rainwater. Now the rainwater has to be gathered, and it's in a flow. Can you tovel in there or not? So that's what's going on here. The father of Shmuel held that's not a valid mikvah anymore. That's not a valid stream, a mayan anymore. There, you have to now dam it and create a gathering of the water, and it has to be stationary, it can't be flowing, can't be zeichalin, and then it's going to be a kosher mikvah. Messiah Leila Rav. So in the third line of Samachayim and base, Messiah Leila Rav, this concurs with Rav, the father of Shmuel, is concurring with Rav. The Amar Rav said, Mitra b'ma'arava, if there's rain in Eretz Yisrael, Sahada, the proof for that is Rabbi Pras, that Euphrates is swelling. Because if the rains in Eretz Yisrael and in Syria are gonna gather, and they're gonna fill up the Euphrates, and so a swelled Euphrates river tells me that there was rain in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore Savar, the father of Shmuel, is concerned. If the majority is the flowing well spring water, so great. So there's a little rainwater in there. It's nullified by the majority of the well water, of the spring water. However, but it may be majority. If it's swelled so much, maybe the majority is rainwater and not the well spring water, and then it would have to be stationary, and it's flowing. Flowing mikveh does not work. Flowing ma'ayan, flowing wellspring works, but not a flowing mikveh. And therefore, the father of Shmuel held, Bensi, that any river, which it definitely has some rainwater in it, and you can't know, at least in the fall, at least in the end of the winter, early spring, even early summer, you don't know if it's more rainwater or more spring water. Maybe it's melting snow, and therefore you couldn't use it. And the only time he allowed to use it was in Tishrei, in the fall, before the rain season, at the end of the summer. At this point, you know that it's not rain; it's the wellspring itself. However, this disagrees with Shmuel. In other words, Shmuel disagreed with Rav and disagreed with his father. The Amar Shmuel said, Nahara mikipe mivrich. No, a river swells from its source itself. What does that mean? As the Rush explains here, and in Mikvos and elsewhere, that what ends up happening is the rain gets absorbed in the ground, the melting snow caps gets absorbed in the ground, and underground they make these channels, these canals underground to the river, and then it fills the river. Majority of it is filling the river from underground. And once the water is absorbed in the ground and running through the ground to the river, that's already natural water again, like every wellspring. Right? That's a spring. So when you have a river, he says, for every drop that comes from above, two come from underground. And therefore, the underground source is what makes the river swell. And so Shmuel says, no, of course you can go to a river and you can go to a river for toveling. And he says, however, it seems like self-contradictory in Shmuel himself, and seems to be Shmuel contradicting himself. Shmuel said, flowing water is never going to be a good source of mikveh other than the Euphrates in Tishrei in the fall, because it's been dry all summer. It has not rained for a while. So any water that is there is only from the underground source and not any rainwater. So that's a contradiction in Shmuel. The Rishonim deal with how to answer the contradiction, but the point is that Shmuel's father made a dam and gathered the waters so that it was a mikveh instead of the flowing water for the spring, in order that they have a standing water, which he held would be the only way to go. Since Bensi asked, the Ramah Paskins, like Rabbi Natan Paskins here, and the Rishonim, that we hold Nara Mekipe Mivrich, that a river is a good source of water, and you could tovel there if you don't have access to a standing water, to a stationary water mikveh. So in a case where somebody doesn't have access to a proper mikveh, gathered water, flowing water in a river is a halachically kosher mikveh. Even in the fall, even in the spring, I mean, when there's melting snow caps and there's rain, nevertheless, it's going to be kosher. Now, one thing the Gemara did not explain here, which was the last point, where he made mats for his daughters to go to mikveh in the fall. Since it was muddy, Rashi says over here, the reason is since it was muddy, that he was afraid that if they step on the mud when they go into the riverbank to go to the mikveh, there would be mud between their fingers, and that would be a chatzitza, a barrier. So he made mats for them to walk on, so that there not be a chatzitza, a barrier between the water and their feet. And others say they shouldn't be afraid that since it's so muddy they can slip, and he made it for them not to fall and not to be afraid, because if you're afraid you may not go into the water fully, completely. And of course, as we know, mikveh only works if the entire body, or if you're toiling vessels, the entire vessel is in at once, and the water is hitting all the surfaces at once. Parefas ala evan. So we said you can put in a stone or a nut or a coin and create this button on the other side, and then wrap the corner thread or string or corner of the garment around it to create something to hold the garment together. But at first he said that she's allowed to wear this head covering, it seems like lechatchila. The end that says that she should not do it on Shabbos, that's talking about the coin. The coin you shouldn't do on Shabbos. Lechatchila. Lechatchila, either do the coin designated as your button before Shabbos and put it in, and so it's already bound before Shabbos, or use a nut or a pebble. Bayabayi.
Why would that be any different than using a hammer as a nutcracker? You're using the coin for a button. It's a muktzah problem. Is that right?
Correct. It is a muktzah problem.
So why would it be different than using something for a permitted use?
So there's some muktzahs that are more lenient, that we say, for instance, a kalisha malachto le'isr, a vessel which actually has a use, but the use is a prohibited use. A hammer generally is made to do bonet, construction, and so you're building with it. That's why it's going to be prohibited. But it also has permissible functions, and therefore, if you're using it for a permissible function, like to crack a nut, that's prohibited. That's permitted. Here, what we're talking about is something that has a it has no use at all. I can't do anything with it on Shabbos. So that's a stricter muktzah. Even there, it would seem that the Ramah would hold its mutter. Your point of when I need it is permissible, but still, if I have something else, lechatchila I should use something else. And if I could do it before Shabbos, lechatchila I should do it before Shabbos. So that's what this Mishnah is saying. The Mishnah does not say that I can't do it on Shabbos. It just says in the Mishnah, however, don't do it that way on Shabbos. But could be that if I had no other choice, I would be allowed to. That's the way the Ramah would interpret that. But the simple meaning is that indeed there's a distinction between a lechazi lemidi, not worthy for anything. You can't do anything with it on Shabbos, versus something that is a klisha malachta leisr. Its work is prohibited, and if I have a permissible use, it's going to be okay. The rock, even though the pebble usually we say is in lechazi lemidi as well, and is going to be muksa, because what are you going to do with the pebble? But this is something you've designated before Shabbos, so it's going to be permissible. Sorry?
So if you designated the coin before Shabbos, it would be okay?
It would seem that would be okay as well. Correct. And that's why if I put it on before Shabbos, I put it in there before Shabbos, I can continue with using it on Shabbos. If the Gemara asks, what happens if a woman needs to bring a nut to her son? Her son is refusing to walk home from shul and is sitting on the sidewalk crying, and there's no eruv, and you can't pick the kid up and take him home. And so, you know what? Wait right here. I'm coming right back. Runs home, takes a walnut, which knows the kid's going to like. It takes a candy, right? Sticks it into her garment and wraps it around so that this way she's closed her poncho by creating this little button with a candy, and gets out there and gives a candy. So she's ma'arim, she's creating a pretense in order to carry this in a public domain by creating this button with the nut. Is that permissible? And then we'll see in regards to when there's a fire, what you're allowed to, some say that you're allowed to create a pretense of wear multiple garments and take it out to save it on Shabbos and so on, or not. So that based on either machlokas, we can ask this. We let you create pretenses and trick the system by a fire, because otherwise what's going to end up happening is you may extinguish the fire, and that's obviously a Torah prohibition, so we don't want you to do that. But here, if you don't let them bring the nut or candy out, they're not going to carry it, so there's no reason to create the pretense and trickery. Perhaps, even if we say that you're not allowed to create trickery by a fire, there, the reason is because you're carrying it in a way that is the prohibited manner of carrying. But over here, that's not the normal way to carry a nut, a candy. That's not a way you carry a candy to your kid by sticking it in your garment and creating a button out of it. Perhaps it's permissible even in such a case. Teku, we will wait for Eliyahu Navi to answer that question for us.